Okay, so I, nearly adult, have an older brother 18 that my parents hate after he came out. So anyway, some backstory. My brother wasn't your usual masculine kind of person. He was more into arts, music, and basically anything that isn't boyish. I, on the other hand, am very masculine, which made my parents favour me more and spoil me a lot when I was a child, but I stopped being a spoiled brat when I was little. I apologise for everything that I've done to my brother that time, and after a few weeks he finally forgave me. So earlier at lunch, my parents invited Dad's side of the family to the get-together. To let you know, we've been vaccinated but still did take precautions. Everyone had a good time until dinner. This is when my brother outed himself as bi. The whole family, other than my parents, congratulated him, and that they are proud that he finally told them. The whole time my parents were quiet but still smiled at him. After everyone left, my parents screamed at my brother and how he shouldn't be bi because you can't be attracted to both genders. My brother, of course, defended himself while crying. My parents told a lot of slurs and insults at him and finally said that they are disowning him since he's an adult now and that they don't want his fat butt leeching off of them. My brother just cried and just agreed and said he'd be better off without them and went ahead to take his stuff. I was just angry at my parents and shouted at them. If they're just going to disown him, they might as well disown me too, because I do not want to be known as the son of the parents who disowned their older son for being bi. This made my parents panic and my mother cry, and they begged me not to. I didn't listen and went ahead and took my stuff too. Currently, me and my brother are in my aunt's, Dad's sister's house. My mom's side is trying to tell me that they just want my brother to stop thinking he can fall for two genders, and my mother has been sending me voice messages of her crying. I feel really bad because I made my parents worried, and I even said to them to leave me alone and they are not my family anymore. My dad's side of the family and my brother thinks I'm not the idiot, but I feel like I am. So, am I the idiot? First of all, it's wonderful that you're supporting your brother like this. You openly took the much harder route and called out your parents for their biphobia. I feel like it would have been too easy to stand back and let the events unfold, but you didn't. Second of all, what a LOL at your mother using her tears as a weapon to get you to come home. That sounds like emotional manipulation at its finest. You, sir, are not the idiot in the situation. You have literally supported and accepted your brother and stood by him, rather than sit back and let him get punished by your parents for being who he is. Not the idiot. You are my hero. Thank you so much for being the love you are. Your parents have the issue here and they need to calm down and stop acting like it's about you and not them. They need space to grow up as people. Let them stew in their own crap a while. They have to look at themselves to ever truly change and accept your brother. Not the idiot. You are such a good person. If ever, tell your parents, don't worry about being horrible parents. As far as I'm concerned, you're just horrible people with no kids. Hoping for the best for you and your brother. There's a story behind that bill and it mattered a lot to me. My best friend Henry and I knew each other since we were in middle school. In high school, we were pretty adamant about being child-free and swore we'd never have kids. We decided to make a little bet though. First guy to have a kid owed the other $50. It was a dumb bet that didn't really take seriously and I completely forgot about it until 9 years later. I was with Henry at a diner once for lunch and he slips me a $50 bill. It took me a minute, but when it clicked, I was so ecstatic. Still, it's one of my fondest memories with him. Two grown men hugging it out at a diner in tears after giving me the news that he's going to be a dad for the first time. His daughter was born after that. I was honoured to be her godfather. Then, unfortunately, we lost him all too soon when his little girl was 5. It's been 3 years since then and I still miss him. We were like brothers and I kept that bill as a memento. I see my goddaughter all the time, so the bill is also a reminder of the first time I learned of her existence. I kept it in a small box with other sentimental things of mine on top of a dresser in my room. My sister is staying with my wife and I along with my nearly adult nephew. They all know about this story, by the way. I've told them before many times. A few days ago, I noticed the box was in a different stop than when I left it, and that's when I discovered that the bill was gone. He eventually confessed what he did because I was frantically looking for it all over the place. My nephew needed the money because he wanted to take his girlfriend out to eat, but my sister wouldn't give him any cash since he spent all his allowance money. Honestly, I was so furious and had asked him how he could do that. knowing that it was one of the few things I have of my best friend and he stole it. My nephew kept apologizing, but I couldn't look at him. My emotions were a little too strong and I just wanted to get away from him before I started yelling. My sister offered to pay me back, but she so well knows that's not the same. However, she is saying I'm being too hard on him because I've been ignoring him the last couple of days and he's feeling ashamed enough. She's apologized on his behalf but does think I'm taking it too far. Right now it's still all fresh for me. That bill was important to me because of the memory it holds. Now it's lost and I'll never get it back. I'm not at a place where I want to talk to him yet, but my sister feels I'm being somewhat of an idiot by punishing him like this, as he's already learned his lesson. I'd just like to know if I am. Not the idiot. I mean, at a bare minimum, he stole your money. More than that, he stole an important memento he knew about. At his age, I can't help but think it was calculated. He's not sorry he did it, he's just sorry he got caught. Not the idiot, and I'm livid for you. I'm also the kind of person who would hold a grudge for something like that. I'd cut them out of my life, blood or not, so as far as I'm concerned, you're being pretty nice about it. Given it sounds like they're staying with OP, my first thought was to kick them out. It was a truly horrible thing to do and it was done deliberately. His nephew is only remorseful because he was called out on it. He hasn't been punished at all though. The silent treatment isn't a punishment, it's just OP being forced to grieve a second time for a friend. I'd insist on a very serious consequence for his nephew, as just saying sorry isn't enough. Not the idiot. Why is your sister condoning stealing? Because that is what this is. If she keeps covering for him, she's going to have a lot of issues coming up and none of these will be yours to deal with. I understand that there are sentimental attachments to that money, but please address the elephant in the room. Your nephew is a thief. My half-sister Dee Dee, 40, and I, 27 female, found out we were both expecting baby girls earlier this year. My due date is in a couple weeks and hers was in July. We were never close, mostly because of the age gap and personality differences. I was shy and an introvert, and she was always a show-off and needed to be the centre of attention at all times. She announced her pregnancy 4 years ago at my wedding. She has 3 children already, and this will be my first. We share a paternal grandma, who we both loved more than anything. She died when I was in high school and we were both devastated. At that time, I told my family I would name my future daughter after my granny. Forward to this week, my sister found out at her checkup that her baby has died in utero. Our whole family was devastated. While I couldn't be with her physically, we have been speaking on the phone and video chatting every day. 2 days ago, we were discussing the process she has to undergo and names for the gravesite came up. She told me that she was using our granny's name. I gently reminded her that my husband and I had picked the name for our daughter years ago and that we have loads of customized baby gear with her name. She started crying before telling her mom to talk to me. After arguing back and forth with her mom, I just snapped. I told her Dee Dee would be wasting the name. The namesake will not get carried on and loved. She immediately started screaming and called me a horrible person and saying I'm going to be a horrible mother. I started crying and my husband started yelling back at her through the phone before hanging up in her face. My husband is mad at this point because we have had our baby name choices picked out since we got engaged. I have been ignoring Dee Dee and her mother's calls and video requests all day. Our dad ended up texting me to please let Dee Dee have the name because she will not have her child, but I will. I told him that she has had a daughter and had her chance to use the name with my 7-year-old niece. At this point, I don't know if I'm being an idiot. You're all idiots here. Holy cow, that was horrible. You are the idiot because you just told a woman that just lost her child that she will be wasting the name. Seriously, it doesn't matter if you hate the person with the passion. You never say that to anyone. Your half-sister sucks because, well, you had told everyone you will name your daughter that name years ago, so she shouldn't have made such drama, and I agree that she could have named your niece that name. In all honesty, you both sound horrible, and it seems like you both are horrible to each other. You really think it'll go over well when OP uses the recently dead kid's name for her own child? It's highly suspect that sister had 3 kids before, yet none of them was going to get grandma's name, but just as OP gets her child, sis suddenly wants to use that name all along. I don't know for how long she was planning this, but it definitely feels like she either did this to steal OP's thunder, or maybe even because she spites OP for having a child, when hers sadly died. OP is not the idiot. I was about to say that OP wasn't the idiot until she said her sister would be wasting the name as if this late child didn't matter. What kind of nasty person are you for saying that? The OP herself has almost polluted the name by saying that. That'll be a nice story for her child to hear when she's older, that her dead cousin was meant to have her name, but Mummy said it would be a waste of a name on her. OP is the idiot. Not the idiot. Based on the fact that you announced the baby name far in advance, she announced a baby at your wedding, and this is her third child and she only now decided to name them after a dead relative, says to me this is also another grab for attention. Yeah, family members can have the same name, but having the same name as a living cousin is not the same as having your name be the name on a recently deceased cousin's gravestone and having to live with the weight of that constantly hanging over your head. So earlier, around 3 a.m, my younger sister had an asthma attack. We normally don't fret about it until we found out that our nebulizer is missing. My mom remembered lending it to someone but forgot who. After multiple phone calls from our relatives, she found out my cousin, 28 male, had it. Unfortunately, he cannot send it right away due to the curfew hours in their area, so she was forced to endure my sister's asthma attack until around 6 a.m. But since it's really difficult to see my sister struggle with her asthma, I went out at 5 a.m. and risked getting arrested just to go to my cousin's house. I was able to sneak, thank God, and returned home safely. So my cousin has an asthmatic daughter. Her case is so bad that sometimes she will be hospitalized. Yet, for whatever reason, he still resorts to borrowing rather than buying his own unit. Then, when I went to Facebook earlier, I was shocked when I saw him boasting about his new PlayStation 5. He really had the audacity to do that after what happened earlier, so I called him to reprimand about it. I said how he prioritizes his daughter's needs. I said about how he prioritizes his daughter's needs first rather than buying unnecessary expensive things so that the earlier incident will be prevented. He got furious and said mind my own business. I got furious and called him an irresponsible father and hanged up. Hours later, my mom talked to me. My cousin's mom relied on her about what I did. My mom wanted me to apologize and instead be more compassionate. I mean, my cousin is poor and he probably has been dying to own a game console. I just shut up, yet deep inside I'm annoyed because she's siding with my cousin. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. I would not apologize for looking out for the child who is at risk for serious hospitalization and possibly death because her parent would rather purchase a game console. Mind your own business in this case is how kids get mistreated and no one says anything. Where's your mother's compassion for the little child who will suffer a significant medical event? I'd be furious. It became your business when he took your sister's life-saving medical equipment. She was without it for hours in an emergency, and you had to risk getting arrested so your sister could breathe. He's unbelievable, but so is your mother. Your sister needs to keep that nebulizer on her at all times, I'm afraid, since your mother is prepared to endanger her life like that. Am I the only one who thinks this should be reported to CPS? Asthma is nothing to joke about with kids, and it's a horrible way to die. Beyond that, it's scary to take a breath and not get enough oxygen. I have asthma. Poor girl, she needs an adult to advocate for her. Not the idiot. Who thinks it's okay to prioritize a game console over their daughter's life? Your cousin definitely deserved that call, especially because his irresponsibility also affected your younger sister. And nebulizers are around $20 to $100. PlayStation 5s are around $500. He could have easily afforded a nebulizer and then waited longer to buy a gaming system. Not the idiot. I don't know how he can, in good conscience, put his child's health at further risk just to get a brand new gaming system. People like that honestly disgust me. It became your business when you had to put yourself at risk due to his selfishness. You're a good brother or sister for taking care of her at all costs. He should be using you as an example for how he should parent. Mother is also the idiot here for lending out the nebulizer. As long as you have a kid who still needs it, it should never leave the house. I, 26 male, babysit my little niece on weekends, always from 10 a.m. until 5 or 6, and that's usually when my sister picks her up from my place. Last year, before I started babysitting for her, I gave my sister my spare key when I went on a camping trip, so she could water my plants and feed my fish. Then I just never got it back, but it wasn't a big deal to me. She's used it a couple times to come into my apartment when she started dropping off my niece, so I wouldn't have to get the door for her. The last 2 times I did have a problem with her coming in was when she came to use my Wi-Fi for a class. It wasn't that I had a problem with her using my Wi-Fi, but it was that she didn't tell me, and on top of that she left my window open because it was getting hot for her. There's been some break-ins around the neighbourhood, and my place could have got broken into with her leaving it open like that. I asked for my key back a couple times, and she says she will, but then never has the time. On Saturday, she was supposed to drop off my niece at 10 a.m. like we always agreed. My girlfriend spent the night at my place, and we woke up early around 8ish. We had time before my niece was supposed to be dropped off, so we took advantage of our free time. My sister didn't bother to tell me she had to go in early, so instead my niece showed up at 9. My sister gave her the key to get inside. My sister went looking for me in my room. I didn't hear her, and nothing traumatic, but she definitely knew what we were doing. When my sister came to get her, I took my key back, and I was mad that she dropped her off early with no warning and for giving her the key to let herself in instead of knocking. At least then niece wouldn't have walked in on us. My sister's mad we were doing that knowing she was going to drop her off, but also thinks I'm overreacting by taking my key back. She says we never know if my niece will need to let herself in, or my sister in case I don't respond in the future or something. But I told her no, and she's not getting it back. It's a day now since our argument, and she's still ticked off because she complained to our mum about it. I don't know if it's such a big deal when it was my key. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Having a key to your place was a privilege, not something she was obligated to have. It's not cool for her to not give you a heads up when she's dropping your niece off when it's at a different time than usual, and there's no reason your niece can't come knock on the door for you to let her in. Not the idiot. Best defense is a big offense. Sister is making a fuss to put OP on the defense. She knows she messed up by dropping kid off an hour earlier than expected, and then compounded things by telling her to use the key to let herself into your place, all without letting OP know in advance. She's making OP the problem so she doesn't have to take responsibility for taking advantage of him. It sounds like your sister has been taking advantage of having free access to your home. The fact that she's been reluctant to turn over the key in the past makes me wonder if she's the type to make a copy for just in case. It wouldn't be a bad idea to change the locks. If you aren't able to, then adding a chain to the door to prevent any more surprises. Not the idiot. You trusted her to do something. She misused it, and you take back the permission. Pretty open and shut. Though I am struck by the part where she told you you'll never know if your niece has to let herself in. Why would a 9-year-old need to let herself in? You're either home to let her in, hence why she's there in the first place, or you're not, and she shouldn't be there. That's the whole reason she is there, to be watched by you.